Okay, hello everyone. Are you with me? Can you see me? I hope so. Today we are editing a really exciting photo, and it's the first time I've been shooting with Sony. It's the first time I was shooting with constant lights in a really long time, and yeah, excited. So I wanted to talk about, first of all, the inspiration for this shoot. So I'm going to go ahead and start sharing my screen. This is the photo that we're going to edit today. It's super similar to a photo that I just recently posted on my Instagram. Oh, and that one is right here. I actually posted this one and forgot that I had a secondary final version of that, so whoops. But this is what the raw photo looked like. So as you can see, I have a couple different variations here of additional edits. And this is kind of how I prefer to edit because I think it's a little less destructive. Meaning that I can just make a new variant and totally change the colors if I want to. So here in Capture One, I like to do a lot of different color adjustments and kind of get a feel for different ways that I can color treat an image by dragging around all of the different options that they have. So again, I do this by making a lot of different variants, and you can do that by right-clicking and doing this right here. In Lightroom, you can do the same exact thing. If you're editing just in Photoshop, you can do the same thing. Just saving a whole bunch of different things is my jam because I always like to go back and redo things. So that's that. I also realized how I can add music to this. I got some epidemic sound stuff going, so I'm gonna play that because silence kills me, and obviously I need to have it really quiet in the apartment to be able to hear my voice. So let's look at some comments, see who is here. Oh my gosh, actually we have quite a bit of people already here. This is so great. Thank you guys for joining. Okay, well, I think without further ado, let's get to it. I am going to start, oh yes, I also forgot that I got a little excited and I already started to edit the colors. So I'm gonna try to start from this raw photo again and get to a similar place right here. But this is just Capture One adjustments. As you can see, there's a lot of skin tone correction and also a little bit of pink added. So we're gonna try to get to this place. All right, I might cheat a little bit and just look real quickly at what I did. Okay, it looks like I have a skin layer, mess with some highlights, add pinks, and okay, cool beans. So let's start with skin. In Capture One, I like to do this by creating a filled layer. And they have a really super awesome skin tone color editor option. And this is really great if you have people that have super patchy skin. Relatively speaking, my skin seems to be not too bad, but I always like to do this just to soften tones just a little bit. And as you can see, the more you drag up, the more kind of crazy it gets. So always trying to be relatively subtle with things, or at least starting subtle. I realize that in no way are my edits like totally subtle, but I do like to try to build slowly and subtly. So as you can see, as I toggle this on and off, very slight tonal differences on the face and also in the hair. And I don't necessarily mind that it's on the hair. I could go in and mask things out with an eraser and be like, no thanks. Wait, yeah, I could just be like, no thanks, I don't want that here, of course. But I don't necessarily mind it. So I'm just gonna paint that back in. So that looks good for skin. Next step for me will be, I think I made a yellow mid-tone layer. So down here we have a color balance tool that I love. I use this all the time. I like to take these midpoints for the shadows, midtones, and highlights. So this one's the shadows, this one's the midtones, this one's the highlights, and just grab and move them around. And this is how I get a lot of inspiration from Capture One. It just gives you a really good idea of what colors can work with an image when you just kind of circle this around. And for those of you that have Capture One or are a little bit curious about it, you can see how that has these different sliders on each side. So this little ticker obviously showing you what color space you're working with. So if you know you want to go, well, I know I want to go yellow, so I'm going to start with yellow here. And if you know you want more yellow, then you just take this slider and drag it up for more yellow or less yellow, and it goes back to 0 when you bring this down. And I believe this is luminance. I actually kind of forgot what that was. Honest. So yeah, I think for me, somewhere around here is a good mid-tone base. And yeah, now I'm gonna add a lot of pink because I know with these constant lights, it looked really, really nice. So let's play here. Maybe somewhere there. Love that. And also it's okay to go overboard because you have another opacity slider up here. So again, I always kind of almost go overboard a little bit and then bring down overall opacity. And this is kind of just like personal preference, really. I know some of you guys might not like the pink, but you know what? I do. Let me look at comments real quick. Oh, Joanna's here, Heather's here, Alex is here. Oh my gosh, invaluable, man. Y'all make my day. I forgot to rename this. Okay. So wow, yeah, that's a lot of pink. So let's bring it down, especially for a raw image. I haven't even begun to bring this into Photoshop, which I will do a little bit of color work in there as well. But I think as a base, this is good. Maybe one more thing, I'm gonna adjust midtones with my levels. Up here where this little histogram guy is, that's where you can make a lot of your levels and curves adjustments. Scrolling down here, I like to, every photo is different. This photo is actually very, very different from my traditional style, so I was having a lot of fun with retouching these. Typically in my editing style, I'll push midtones up, make a photo overall brighter, and then actually crush shadows just a little bit. Actually, that was way too much. On my other work, it lends like a really nice airy vibe, but with this lighting, it actually, I think, looks a little bit better when I push midtones a little darker. A lot more texture kind of starts showing up. One other thing I might do and illustrate here in Capture One is the gradient tool, actually. I have been, let's see, new filled layer. I've been playing with this, especially with this set, because I had a light that was coming directly from above and hitting my shoulder mostly, and then it was like fall off on my face. So I want to kind of darken my shoulder so that that skin tone matches the skin tone of my face. This is easily done with Mr. Gradient tool. You can drag him down. As you can see, we're just making a really soft gradient from my shoulder kind of upwards. And what do you think we're gonna do? We're gonna take those midtones and we're gonna bring them down just a little bit, or a lot. As you can see, if we just keep on growing, it will really shadow an image. So trying to keep it somewhere around there. That looks great. Cool beans. So just looking around, making sure there's nothing else I want to do in Capture One. Let's see how close we got from this to what I edited at like 4 a.m. the other night. Oh, see, actually, I went a lot more pink. Glad I looked. I'm not sure if I like that much pink now. This goes to show that, like, even though I'm the same person as the same photo, like at different times, like I'm gonna come up with wildly different images. So that's kind of cool. I think we're ready to bring this guy into Photoshop. So how I do this, I take a right click, edit with Photoshop 2021, and here we go. Looking at comments while this is loading. Aw, Emily's in the chat. She's also sitting 2 feet from me. Always really funny. Oh, John's here. This is great. The Strovis, hello. Hello from California. Wow, so cool. Man, thank you guys for coming. Really excited to have you here. I wonder why Photoshop didn't automatically pop up. Let's see what's going on over here. Maybe it didn't hear me. There you go. Okay, so now we are here in lovely Photoshop land. I am going to first thing run a frequency separation layer. This helps me clean up skin, and the action that I have it is really finicky. I don't know what I did wrong when making it, but it has to go first in my retouching order. Otherwise, it just doesn't like to work. So this is what we're left with for now. I like to start cleaning up an image pretty much around eyes. This also gets really meta, like editing your face. So that's a thing. Okay, I frequency separate. I realize I need to slow down and explain sometimes a little bit. I first of all got instructions how to make this action, or downloaded this action a really long time ago from some free site online. There's so many different ones that you can download. I'm also it's on my to-do list to make an action of my entire process, including color and frequency separation and everything like that too. So I'm really, really excited to kind of redo this and also speed up my own workflow. But for all intents and purposes, you can find a frequency separation layer anywhere online. It basically breaks down your image into a details layer that looks like this if you just have it. So this is just raw detail of your image. And then on the flip side, it has a color layer, which is essentially your photo that is super, super blurred, just the colors. So this is a really handy way how you can edit just color or just detail and still retain the information on that other side. So for example, if I were to just edit this background layer, I'm gonna make a duplicate by hitting Command J here. If I were to, say I wanna get rid of whatever is happening here. Take that lasso tool, go to blur, Gaussian blur. It's gonna get rid of all of that texture of the skin, and that's bad, right? Like we definitely want to retain texture. So if you want to smooth skin, it's very, very important to not smooth the detail as well, because humans have pores. Unless you're going for an alien look, you know, I guess the rules are meant to be broken. I'm gonna go ahead and delete that layer and show you the correct way. So on the details, we get our little lasso. Oh, nope, actually lasso is for color. With details, I get my clone stamp tool. Make sure that the sample is just current layer. Current and below will also affect the color layer and take information from here. It's definitely not what we want. The idea is to separate those details and the colors, and make sure we have your tablet set to brush size, because this makes it really easy for me to change the brush size with my tablet. It's a little wheel. And yeah, that's basically it. We'll start going. If you hit Option, click, you'll find like a good piece of texture is kind of how I look at it. So if I'm trying to fix the texture up here, then I'll Option click right here, maybe make my brush a little bit smaller. Also, I'm at a 4% flow, which is really, really, really subtle. So maybe I'm gonna bring that up just a little bit, just to illustrate. And then slowly kind of painting back in good detail. Because there's already detail now, but we want to kind of soften things that don't belong. This also kind of works for hair. As you can see, hair is just is just detail that it doesn't belong here, you know? The color is relatively the same color as my skin. So when you just get rid of, this is a really bad example of what you should do. I'm gonna go ahead and Command Z undo that. But a good illustration of like, if you just get rid of the detail, the color doesn't necessarily need to be changed because it's relatively close to the color of the skin tone. And that's that. I'm just gonna go around and lighten any sort of distracting or contrasty elements of the skin. Be very careful about areas like this that have a lot of contrast. If I go in, if I go in and start destroying it, it might look a little bit shopped, you know? So again, I'm trying to do things really subtly and slowly and build layers. Man, moments like this. I'm very, very happy I stayed up till 4 a.m. to figure out how to get music on this live stream. Brings joy. Getting rid of this earring. Okay. And eyes are pretty much the same. This isn't really a detail problem. It's kind of a color problem. I prefer to edit eyes. Well, I guess I always see if it works with this, and if not, then I'll go in and try to get rid of veins with the healing brush. Or yeah, this guy is my friend, but he also only works on a layer like this. He doesn't really work on a details or a color layer. He wants all that information. And I can illustrate this for you by Command Option Shift E. It will kind of do a stamped visible layer. And then I'm gonna zoom in on the issue here. This tool doesn't work all the time, but it does do a really good job. So you might have to undo sometimes and redo, but it's as simple as just drawing over problem areas and seeing and it just gets rid of things immediately. And I just am obsessed. Sometimes, like I said, it doesn't do a great job, but for the most part, this is the tool I use to get rid of a lot of things, especially crazy wacky hairs, like just drawing things on. But I'm jumping the gun a little bit. We haven't finished our frequency separation. That was just to kind of demonstrate how to get rid of little fine lines. So let's see, let's go to our color layer now, get our lasso, and now we're gonna start looking at this image in a very artistic, illustrative way. This is actually a good point for me to pull up my inspirations for this photo. I don't know why I didn't show that at the very, very beginning, but let me pull up Pinterest, which is my favorite website. This artist is one of my all-time favorites. Nobody knows her name, but she goes by 0073 UV. Or Walter's mom on Instagram. She is just wildly talented and creates these really, really, really beautiful portraits of women. And I'm just so drawn to the colors and the boldness of everything. So keeping in mind a lot of these kind of tones, highlights, shadows, colors, how she mixes gold and red, I'm very, very interested in, especially for this portrait set with constant lights. So I actually, while editing these, had these photos kind of up on my second screen to look at while I'm editing, so I can kind of make some decisions while I'm editing based on these. I mention this because, let's see if I can make this really small. I know that there's a way that I can keep this like up while I'm editing. There's like an app, I think. I need to look into that. Keeping in mind, especially I'm looking at the highlights. This particular artist does a really, really good job at illustrating where like doll-like illustrative highlights are. You can see right here on the nose, she has a strong highlight always, on lips and around the eyes. Also forehead, cheekbones, on clothing. Just really, really interesting to start to look at all sorts of different art as inspiration for your photo editing. So honestly, like, I mean, I did this photo set with these photos also in mind, so it's really pretty close. And obviously I can go in and start to add in all sorts of extra effects and colors and tones and stuff too. And that's kind of how I'm going to approach this edit. It's not necessarily going to be a very natural edit. It's going to be very much like this. So hopefully you are into that and along for the ride. So with all this in mind, let's go ahead and go back to our color treatments. I am first going to soften out different areas of skin that I think the tones could kind of shift a little bit smoother. For example, there's a really kind of harsh line going right here that I want to smooth out. So I'm gonna just grab this entire area with my lasso tool. It's at a 5% feather. Keeping that in mind, I go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, again making sure we're on that color layer only, and somewhere around here, 12, 16 or so is where I like to stay. Hit OK, and it's hard to see just what that color layer is doing, because when I toggle it, the details is also showing. But trust me, the tonality is just ever so slightly being changed. So I'm just gonna keep on going around the image and changing very subtle tonalities. This is something that you'll also just get a feel for as you edit more. And yeah. I see in the comments we're talking about Chilled Cow. I listen to them all the time. Emily does not appreciate Lofi though. She goes like, this is what I say. Which is why it's in my earphones. Yeah, cool beans. Okay. Oh, so this is actually a good place I also use color to even out body skin tones, trying to keep roughly the same color in this lasso tool. I'll show you what happens if you were to just create like a giant lasso covering many, many, many skin tones. It's not gonna look good. It kind of looks a little bit, it starts to get rid of this detail that we want. So Command Z, undo that. It's better if you take smaller sections and blur those. Okay, that's pretty much, maybe here too. Okay. Again, really kind of interesting editing your face. I see you, Emily, in the comments. Cool beans. Where are we now? Okay, we got some frequency separation done. Here is the toggle on and off. It makes a big difference in skin cleanup. And now that we have that, let's get into my first base coloring. I have this action here that I'm going to run. I've said this in my past 3 lives. I'm actually going to, it's on my to-do list, like I said, to make an action that is based on this, the frequency separation layer, and all of the steps I do after an edit. But for now, this is gonna be what we do. This is based off of Emily Soto's action, Allison. I love it the most for this reason. This is the first time I've ever used anything that had a gradient fill, and actually I had a lovely talk with Pratik just last night who educated me all about gradients and all the wild, crazy possibilities that you have with these. But anyways, I love this action because it has this gradient fill built in. This is also something that I'll go in and add with the gradient tool over here as well. All the time in my edits, even in my different variants. Excuse me, I wonder why I'm losing my voice. What? What? No! No, God, Emily. Emily's whispering COVID. It's not real. This is how rumors get started. Emily. Okay, so anyways, this gradient tool, as I was saying, I love it because it acts as like a fake light source. And this, as you can tell, if you're looking at this image and where the highlights are naturally falling, you know that the light is coming from this upper right-hand corner of the image. There's also a light source coming from the left side. So in all reality, I could create 2 of these gradients and have it at either corner, and it's just gonna add this beautiful glowy luminescence that I just am obsessed with. There's something really magical, I think, about adding this sort of haze to images. Yeah, that's all I have to say about that. So I like to keep the gradient kind of overflowing onto the subject just a little bit, because the rest of the action kind of takes it all down. And yeah, that's that. So it'll run through all these things, and I'll go through and delete half of them because they don't apply. This image, I usually don't do a lot of overall contrast layers, but this particular image, I think it lends itself really, really well to some contrast. So I'll put all of those into a folder and get rid of a vignette, because this image is already quite dark. And laughing at the comments. Emily is savage. And where am I? Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna bring down this overall opacity a lot because it changes the colors a little too much. And maybe somewhere around 24. Yeah, okay. What I'm looking for with this action mostly is, and actually sometimes I take that sun layer and I bring it out of the folder so that it kind of stands on its own and has that full opacity, that full 22%. But if you keep it in this folder and then bring down the overall opacity, then that effect is just even less so. With the rest of the color layers that I've kept from this action, I just like it as a general base for skin tone. So I'm gonna rename that skin tone and again start building more on top of this. Also, there's a clone stamp layer right here that I can go in and do any sort of liquifying. This image, I usually go in and liquify hair a lot, but honestly, I'm really into how this hair looks already. I don't know, I might get a big brush and just push it a little bit. Always trying to make nice shapes. So the fact that this already has this really nice line tangent to my shoulder, I'm really drawn to. But I never say no to bigger hair, you know? So there's that. And maybe just a slight push over here. Oh yes, the braided choker. On the original image, this thing was quite a pain. And this is about to get very archaic in the editing. And if Pratik watches this, I'm nervous. How I would fix this little hair that's coming like out and try to make this all more even is with this liquify tool. Starting with a larger brush and small taps and pushing to kind of make that shape a little bit smaller. And then doing the opposite with the others. Small taps out to make it bigger. This is how, when you have really, really thin, fine hair like me, it looks like beautiful, thick hair. Thanks, Photoshop. Yeah, okay. That's that. If we unclick preview, you can see the changes. It's just making it a little bit more uniform, and I like that. Another thing you can do if you're really wanting hair to look like it's coming out at you or really full is getting the bloat tool and just barely tapping on areas that have highlights, which right here is a highlight, right here is a highlight. More or less with a braid, it's right in that middle before it starts being folded underneath hair. So I'm gonna get a relatively big brush and just tap, 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 tap. And I'll preview this so you can see. Makes quite a difference. Okay, so that's that. Might just see if I can move these bangs over. Always looking for clean lines, especially if I'm doing something like this. It's a very illustrative, inspired portrait. Lines tend to be perfect. And honestly, my hair was cooperating this day. I'm not even sure how. It never does things how it's supposed to. Pushing in bangs here. So this is a nicer line. I think I just changed the shape of my face a little bit. Nope, cool. Yeah, that's a really good base. Cool beans. Preview that once more. Hit OK. Note to self, mess with the liquify tool more. Yes, John, do it. It's so much fun. This is one of my main loves in Photoshop, is seeing different possibilities. We're gonna get rid of this guy. I don't know what he's doing down there. Hole on the wall. Okay, so now we have a beautifully skin corrected and liquefied and color corrected image. I'll probably at this time start going more into dodging and burning. I do this with levels, and actually I think most of the rest of this particular tutorial is going to be on almost advanced dodging and burning techniques. This is something that I think really takes an image to that next level in terms of fine art illustrative qualities. If you're looking to add a sort of punch to your images, I think that this is that tool that people are trying to find in their own retouching journeys. It really just makes a huge difference to your final photo. This is a pretty flat image, and once we start bringing more shadow, depth, colors and tones and highlights, it really just kind of becomes more 3D and comes more alive. Today we're going to start with shadows, and I do this by taking the midpoint of the levels, a levels adjustment layer, taking the midpoint, bringing it down. And it doesn't really matter. You can bring it all the way down here and then have a really, really, really low flow brush and just keep adding more shadow in areas. I like to keep it somewhere around here, so it's never too much, because I do get crazy with the brush sometimes. As you can see, it makes a little mask right here. We want to invert this mask with Command I so that it doesn't show all that highlights except for where we put the brush tool, right? So we're gonna grab brush, and anywhere, if we have a high flow, 100% flow, anywhere we paint is gonna have more shadow, right? So we're gonna get rid of that, bring this flow way down so it's super subtle. Maybe somewhere around there. I don't know why opacity is at 95. Let's change that. And we're just gonna start painting in areas that should have shadow, right? So first you wanna look at your image and notice where there's already shadow. So this whole side of the face. I like to start framing a face with shadow. Sound effects necessary. And underneath here, there's also a lot of shadow in this braid. Back back here, the top of the hair, basically everywhere except for this band of light that's coming through. That's a highlight and we want to keep it. So don't put too much shadow. Don't put too much shadow on your highlights, you know, because you want that information. Outlining wherever there's shadow here. And now we're gonna zoom in. Okay, when you're adding shadow to faces, again, it's really important to do this subtly. Sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 different shadow dodge and burn layers, right? So don't try to do this all in one go because it will get a little messed up. I don't know how I didn't fix the texture of my lips. What? Oh, this is, okay, well this is a good illustrative way that I would go in and then fix this. Because I already did some work here, I might go back to my frequency separation because lips are so difficult. And right now they were just really dry this day. So I'm gonna change the texture, right? Because the texture right here is where I bit them. And we want that to be softened. So because I already have a stamp visible layer above this, I'm going to have to mask in the lips from, or mask out the lips from the above layer so that this shows through. If you're doing like a really high-end edit, then I definitely would not recommend doing but this is my, you know, ghetto way to get around things. Also, it's a good idea to smooth out some skin tones on lips just a little bit. Actually, that did not work out. The undo button is your friend, for sure. I think that's better. Yeah, cool beans. So we'll get a mask over here and say, no thanks. It's a 4% flow, so it's not really showing up. Here we go. Perfect. Okay, where were we? Oh yes, adding shadows. We're gonna add shadow. Oh, we're gonna make sure that we have the white brush, right? Because the black is going to hide the shadows, right? White is where it's showing up. Right here, you can see the mask. Anywhere there's white is where we have painted in shadow. I know that right now it's inverse and it's a little more difficult to grasp. Wow, that was way too much. Uh-oh, what have I done? Oh, here we go. Making sure you're on the mask and not this layer. With shadows, they're kind of everywhere, right? They're around your eyes, they frame your nose, they frame your lips, they frame your face. Ah! And oh, and I'm zooming in. I also learned this not too long ago. If you hold the Z key and press and hold on your tablet, I guess, and swipe right, it zooms in, and left zooms out. Isn't that fun? Things you learn. You can go in and darken eyeliner with shadows even. The iris, just a little bit. The eyes are really gonna come alive after a little bit of highlight work too. Ah, come back. You guys are really getting all the sound effects today. Cool, okay, so that's good for the first layer of shadows. I'll toggle that on and off so you can see. And probably bring it down a little bit or mask out whatever's happening right here. Don't like. No thanks. Huh. Okay, that's good. We're gonna do the same exact thing with the highlights. So we're gonna take a levels layer, bring those midtones up, but not too much. Command I, invert that layer. Grab our white brush. You can hit the X key to flip those colors. Also a really fun thing I learned way too late in the game. I like to start with the nose. Again, this is a really good time to bring back our little inspiration lady. Where'd she go? Why is she like that? Come back. So again, highlights here, 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 here. Right above on the eyes. Also keeping in mind the lighting of this particular image that she's using as a reference is different than the lighting that I used for my self-portrait, right? So keeping in mind, I know that the light is coming from above, so highlights should be coming from that direction. And also there's a reflector from below as well. Knowing where your light is coming from is very important when you're adding shadows, or well, shadows and highlights. Oops. Again, I just like to keep this kind of in my mind as I'm editing to see where I want to add highlights. Also, this image is actually a really good thing to illustrate too. If you notice, the tops of her cheeks are actually in shadow and the bottom half of her mouth is actually in highlight. Like, that's really interesting to me, right? Something about that is very illustrative and artistic, and I like it. So maybe for this edit, this is something I haven't really tried before myself, but maybe for this edit, we'll try to do something more like that. So make that full screen again, and with the highlights in mind, we have here the nose, here in the eyes. There's a little highlight going on right here that I am into. Here. And on this side only of the lips, because the other side is in shadow. Again, bringing those highlights back into this braid. All of this, hair. Oh God, what's going on in the comments? You sounded like Shy Guy from Mario. Oh no. Yep, that checks out. Cool beans. Okay, so keeping in mind that last reference photo, we're just gonna now lighten a lot this bottom half of my face. Maybe with something larger than a 1% flow, you know, that would be helpful. Let's do it to the other side too, just to keep things even. And I'm kind of learning with you guys right now too, so this is kind of fun. Let's toggle that, see what's happening. Wow, okay, a lot. So let's bring down this. I think that works for me. I'm gonna select these both and put them in a folder. Dodge and burn. And toggle that. So it really makes this image pop. And I like that. So I'm probably gonna do this one more time actually. So I'm gonna make it levels, bring it down for the shadows. And this is gonna be more of like just in areas that I think need a little bit more. So what's happening up here in the hair, I would like a little bit darker. And around the eyes. This, and again, that whole image was darker up on the top part of the face. I like that. Also around the nose is definitely really red and dark in their image. Painting in shadows down here. Man, I'm really glad y'all don't mind the music because it's saving my life right now. Cool. Cool. Let's do that. Perfect. Oh. There's also this highlight way over here from that backlight. Highlight here, here. Let's redo that. Bring this flow way down. Now I think adding highlights and contrast this way makes an image feel a lot more painterly and masterful than just taking a contrast layer and, you know, bringing a slider up. When you do overall adjustments, as opposed to very intentional adjustments, it really shows in your final edit. Cool. Let's see. Something I also might do is just a little bit of a sharpen tool on eyes itself. Oh yeah, and I didn't fix this thing again. The clone stamp tool, I think, gets a little crazy when you have things on top of it, so let's just get rid of everything real quick, and on our stamp visible, bring this guy back. Okay, get rid of things. I really don't like how that eyelash is doing its thing. Cool. Good enough for me. Let's bring everything back. Bye. Cool beans. What are we doing now? I think we're gonna try for some color adjustments. I have more actions from my friend Lara Jade. She has an amazing set of actions that I really love to play around with. There's one called Champagne that I know is pink tone and I love it, and it's a lot, so we're gonna bring it down like maybe 7 or 10 or 8% opacity. Very subtle, actually. I'm gonna bring that up a little bit. Really interesting editing this image for me, or this set of images for me, because like I said, that's so different. The the files are from a Sony camera, which I've never shot before, and the clarity and detail that I'm getting in my face is just kind of blowing my mind. Also, this is one of my first time shooting with constant lights in a really, really long time. So the quality of the light and these little nuances, like this highlight on my nose, these are all very new things for me to edit through and work through, and still be like my style. So this is kind of a fun one today. Looking at this photo, I'm feeling like it's at a really good place. So I'm gonna save and maybe bring it back into Capture One to play more with color. So while this is saving, I will close, bring back up Mr. Capture One, and show you where we were. So this is the raw, and this is what we just did. Wow, that's a lot. Cool. So we are going to mark this 4. My editing style is 3 is the images that I want to edit. When I start to edit them, I bring them up to 4. And when they're done, I make them 5. We're gonna clone that. So this is what we have. This is a new, fresh photo that we can then go in and start changing colors. Again, we're just gonna make a new color layer. Go to our color tools and start playing. I like to sit way back for this. If I'm super close up, it's really hard for me to tell what's going on in the photo. I can dig it. I like that. No one asked you, Emily. And shadows, actually, I'm not sure about. I'm not sure about this guy. Maybe something really, really, really low. Yeah, not too shabby. So yeah, what I would do to take this photo to the next level is bring it back into Photoshop and add more dodge and burn. Sometimes if I'm going for a really doll-like image, we'll add in freckles. So maybe let's go ahead and do that. Edit in Photoshop once more. This is how I end up having a million different variations in Capture One. Emily in the comments yelling at me, no, it's not true. It's not true. Okay, so let's see. We have our base color, which is great. Let's do a freckle layer. Freckles are fun. I have some going on already, but in a lot of my inspiration photos, they have a lot everywhere, all over the place. And I wish I was blessed with freckles like this, but I am not. So we must Photoshop, you know? How you can do it, you can sample the color of a current freckle, or you can take an eyeshadow color that's typically somewhere that's close. There's also a million different tutorials on how to make your own freckle brush in Photoshop, and I went through one of those and made this guy. And he is my friend. This is going to be super painterly and super, probably not the best practice, but this is how I found works for me, and I like how it looks, so there's that. I make it really small so that the brush is kind of roughly the same size of existing freckles, and start to paint. Might need to be a slightly higher flow, and as you can see, it just kind of sprinkles like confetti freckles everywhere. For me, with this, I also overdo it, and then I go in and mask out freckles that don't belong, make some blurry, make some more defined. Keeping in mind my reference photo that has a darker upper portion of the face and a lighter lower, I'm only focusing on that upper part of the face for freckles. Also, in general, most people get freckles right here because that's where the sun hits the strongest on a face. So also you can change flow, opacity, sizes. That's how you make these things look a little bit more realistic. I'm really telling you all my secrets today, you know? Bringing down overall opacity. Let's go ahead and make a mask with a black brush. We're gonna make this back our soft round, and just kind of take areas that have a little too much. And that looks good to me. You can also change layer styles, make it multiply instead. That will kind of help them feel like they're sitting more into the face, or a darken, or an overlay even, probably. Maybe not overlay. I usually stick with multiply. If you zoom super in, you can kind of always tell when people be doing things with freckles, but honestly, that works for me. Okay, maybe one more round of dodge and burn just to see what we can create. This image also looks kind of dope, really dark. So maybe we'll darken it overall with shadows here. Make sure we have a white brush. Whoa, not that dark. Crazy lady. If your subject is close to the background and casting a shadow, it's also maybe a good idea to run your shadow brush on that background, because you want to make sure that if you're adding a lot of contrast to your subject, that your background has a matching level of contrast. Otherwise, it'll look a little off. I'm going to zoom into the braid here so you can see how I would go about adding shadows. So right here, where all of the hairs meet, is where ideally they would be casting a shadow on each other. And also onto the skin. Right here, down here. I could probably go in and edit out all these flyaway hairs, but yeah, we're not going to do that because that is very meticulous, and this is just for practice. Cool, cool, cool. Let's get this guy up here. And darken all of this down to the nose. Are you guys still with me? You with me?
With you.
Oh, well, at least there's Emily.
What do you mean at least?
What do you mean at least? I'm just saying, you know. At least.
Why don't you say it that way? Yeah.
I'm just, you know, saying words like at least. Okay. Did I overdo it? Probably. So let's just break it down. And let's go highlights. Man, you can just do this over and over and over and just keep building like an incredibly painterly image. And that is what I'm into. Lately, at least. Great. I see Alex is still here with me too. Good. Thanks for being here. Hope you're learning things. Andy's here. We have a Raul. We have a Michael. We've got a John. Okay, cool, great. Still have people. Otherwise, I'm talking to myself or talking out loud, and Emily has to hear it. Julie's here. Cool beans. Keep getting distracted. What am I doing now? Oh yes. Adding more. More is more, you know? Also, if you option click on the background layer, Emily taught me this, you can see a before and after of what you are doing in Photoshop. Isn't that cool? I need to mic Emily so you guys can hear all these things she is saying. Okay, what am I gonna do now? Oh, sometimes I like to add gradients on overall, the overall image, and I will show you how I do that. First, we'll get a little blank layer, and then I'll probably sample the color that is going on up here. Actually, maybe I'll sample a little lighter, maybe right here of the skin tone, and show you how I would then go and add, why are you like this? Here we go, basics. This guy, which is the color we chose, to transparent. That's what we want. Definitely not like that. What are you doing, Photoshop? So I like to drag from where that light source is coming from, which is somewhere up here in the world, and then it's being cast downwards, right? So, that is amazing. So we'll go bring this to screen. Screen, I think, adds just a little bit more luminous factor here, and then obviously bring down this opacity. If it's hitting areas that need shadow, like perhaps this front area of my hair shouldn't really be hit by that side light, then we can go in and mask. So we'll add a mask, get our brush, make it black, and make sure with a lower flow that we're masking out where it shouldn't be hitting. It's just a little different, you know? And same goes for this crazy fun orange side light. I want to find this orange color. Looks like it's around here. Maybe it's up here. No, that one's too dark. Let's bring this guy back and do that same thing. So I get my little gradient tool, make sure it's set to transparent. Otherwise you'll get that color going to white or that color going to black. And I know it's also coming from a high light source. Uh-oh, what have I done? I've ruined it. Command Z to the rescue. I know that light source is, if I zoom out, I can show you. The light source is like a little nanlight tube that is right here. So I'm gonna start wherever roughly it is and kind of bring it to where I want it to stop. And I really kind of want it to stop like halfway through that face. And actually, I think I'm gonna start over and bring it a little bit more in. Yeah, wow. Okay, into it. So again, I'm gonna take a mask take a brush and kind of mask out a little bit on the face here. It feels like this is now a video game character and I do not recognize them. Yeah, so that'll do. It could be fun to play with this blending mode too. That is kind of fun, this color burn into it. It's definitely not my typical style, but I can jump on board. Overlay might be nice, actually. Let's see, before and after. Yeah, it adds this nice orange glow, and I like that. Cool beans, guys. Well, I think I'm pretty much getting done with this edit. So if there are any particular questions with things that I'm doing that you don't understand or want more clarification on, or whatever you want to say, now's a good chance to do that because we are nearing the end, unfortunately. I just know, looking away and looking right back at this, I know I want to add a little bit more shadow to this area, so I'm gonna drag this to an area that I know has a lot of shadow. Invert that layer, get my brush, and add a little bit more contrast over here. Uh-oh. Sorry, Photoshop. Cool. A little bit more flow probs. So this is also kind of a pet peeve of mine that I'm just like doing willy-nilly. You see how I added the shadow to darken myself, but it's also darkening the background in a really unnatural way. I really don't like it when that happens. So try your best to make sure that when you're editing, you're only editing things that are supposed to be fixed. So even that just fixes it. Cool. Okay, are you guys ready to see this before and after? Not bad. Cool. Well, I think that this is pretty much it for what I would do to this image. It's so much fun trying new things and using different reference photos as inspiration. I definitely encourage you guys to go look for inspiration outside of photography sometimes, you know, like maybe there are certain artists, certain illustrators, certain anything that speaks to you and inspires you. Maybe using those as any sort of inspiration, whether it's very literal like I did with this, taking those highlights and shadows, or maybe it's just subject matter, maybe it's the story, and really get creative with this. I'm gonna save and bring it back into Capture One and show you that final before and after from the raw to this, and it's probably gonna blow your mind. It's definitely gonna blow mine. This is one of my favorite parts of the entire process. All right, so we're gonna make this 5, and I'm also gonna make up here, I'm gonna reset, I think. No, I'm just gonna uncheck all of the options we did so we can really see like that raw photo to what we did. And crazy. Yeah, a lot more color, a lot more contrast. For the final version of this, I'll probably end up zooming in quite a bit. You can do this by holding shift in here, and also with the pan tool. You can see all the differences. So cool. Looking at the comments, John says, rad final edit, gives me Blade Runner vibe. Yes, I know. I think it has something to do with these like orangey pink tones. Definitely new for me, and I'm into it as well. Very, very cool, guys. Well, I'm so glad that you all joined me today. I am really excited about keeping up with these. I think next week I might pull something from like my really old archives, because I'm noticing that there's so much gold in there, and I just had really bad editing ways, especially starting out. I think it would be really, really fun to pull something super old and give it new life, and hopefully that can be inspiring to you guys as well to do something similar. Also, a question for you guys, feel free to write it in the comments or reach out to me. Would it be helpful if you guys edited along with these, or is it more helpful to kind of hear and watch my process? Be sure to let me know that, because I can also kind of curate whatever I want with these lives, and obviously want them to be useful for you guys as a tool for learning. So that's that. Well, guys, I